6 police officers came to my house and arrested me. Why? Because I'd been talking about my daughter's school on a WhatsApp group.
This is beyond belief. This dad was arrested for criticising his daughter's school on WhatsApp. But what is the full story here? Why did the police have the powers to come and arrest this poor father simply for a bit of criticism on WhatsApp? Let's listen to the whole story.
Morning of Wednesday the 29th of January, about 11:45, I was on a Zoom call for a work project, when on my Zoom screen, in the little window where I saw my own face, I realised that 2 police officers were standing behind me. Another 2 police officers were arresting my partner, Rosalind, in front of Francesca, our 3-year-old daughter. They bundled us into the police cars and took us off to custody at Stevenage Police Station.
That must have been pretty embarrassing. You're on a Zoom call with all your work colleagues and suddenly police officers appear behind you to arrest you. I mean, what? I'm sure that everything was going through his head, going mad at that time. But, I mean, what about his work colleagues? I mean, could you think of anything more embarrassing than your work colleagues seeing you get arrested on Zoom?
He remained for the next 12 hours. He arrested me on suspicion of harassment and malicious communications. And it was to do with...
Harassment and malicious communications? I mean, what did this guy say? It must have been pretty terrible, surely, for it to be considered harassment and malicious communications. Let's hear what he actually said.
Dispute with our daughter's primary school, which began with posts on a WhatsApp group. On the 23rd of November 2023, the head teacher of my daughter's primary school announced he would retire. But what seemed strange to me was the Board of Governors decided immediately to appoint the deputy head as acting head 10 months later without even advertising the job. So I made some inquiries. I contacted the chair of governors in private and in good faith and asked her to explain what a rationale was and what was going to happen. Her response, in my opinion, was rather evasive. So I asked again, and I wrote to all the governors asking them to explain what was happening and why they decided to do that. I posted that letter in a WhatsApp group. It's a private parents' WhatsApp group. Like most parents, we chunted about a few things. One thing we talked about on that group was a letter from the school commanding all parents not to talk about the school on Facebook or social media or WhatsApp groups. We thought that was a bit off. My partner Rosalind made a handful of vaguely spicy comments. She referred to one school leader as a control freak. She said the chair of governors didn't know much about anything. Out of the blue, on the 12th of July last year, the chair of governors wrote to Rosalind and me. She accused us of posting disparaging and inflammatory comments on WhatsApp and Facebook.
This is genuinely insane, right? They have spoken about some letter on a WhatsApp group and said that somebody that works at the school is a bit of a control freak. Does that really warrant this like insane detailed letter? It's just beyond belief.
We didn't stop. She would ban us from our daughter's school.
What?
So we pushed back.
It's insane.
We denied the accusations. We complained that they'd been accessing our messages, and 2 days later, they banned us from the school. Now, this ban had really serious implications for our daughter, Sasha. She has epilepsy, she's disabled, she has special needs. We weren't allowed to have normal conversations with the school. We could only send emails.
This is genuinely beyond belief, that, to me, that the people in charge of a school, because they are scared of hurty words, like someone being called a control freak, they are going to harm the education of a young girl with epilepsy who is disabled and needs special help. That is genuinely beyond me. That is like the definition of selfishness, wanting to guard yourself from hurty words from a parent at the expense of some little girl's education and well-being.
We had to send emails about everything our daughter needed for her health and education. We were going through the school's formal complaints policy, and then on the 20th December there was a knock on the door. It was a police officer. He told me in no uncertain terms not to contact the school, not to speak to anybody about the head teacher recruitment issue. He even told me...
Doesn't he have a right to say something?
In the end, we gave up, I suppose. We took Sasha out of the school. 5 days later, the police turned up. when we were finally interviewed...
Wait, so hang on. The school literally got what they wanted. The parents and the child left the school. They're out of their hair now. Shouldn't be an issue anymore. Yet they have the audacity to then call the police on them. How petty and pathetic.
The detective, who'd had no previous involvement with the case, he turned out not to have any evidence of those alleged crimes.
Well, then how can
He
he
had no
arrest him then?
documents. He had no first-hand accounts. He just had a vague statement from the acting head teacher at the school. It was Kafkaesque. It was surreal. It was bizarre. It was horrific. Eventually, we were put on police bail and discharged at midnight. We got a £75 cab back to our house in Borehamwood. About 2 or 3 days later, a kind of PTSD began to kick in. I mean, did that really happen? Even now, 2 months later, when I see a police car go by somewhere near our house, I shudder. I think, are they coming back for us again? Eventually, we got a call from the detective in charge of the case. He said to Rosalind, "We're taking it no further." I have found no evidence for these offences. And that was it. It was over. And even now, we still don't know what we're meant to have said or done, which was so terrible, or justified sending 6 police officers to our house. I don't know if we're the first parents to get our collars felt by the police for putting a school's nose out of joint, but I hope we're the last.
Hertfordshire Police has said, following reports of harassment and malicious communications, which are criminal offences, a man and a woman from Borehamwood, both aged in their 40s, were arrested on Wednesday 29 January. The arrests were necessary to fully investigate the allegations, as is routine in these types of matters. Following further investigations, officers deemed that no further action should be taken due to insufficient evidence. A spokesperson for Hertfordshire County Council said,
boring.
head was appointed.
We don't need to hear their pathetic statement, but I mean, that is just genuinely beyond belief, right? That this guy, simply for criticising a school and questioning the appointment of the new assistant head teacher, has ended up with 6 coppers arriving at his door. And you might say, oh, but he wasn't thrown in prison, but you heard it from him there. He has PTSD where every single time he sees or hears a police car going by his house, he gets terrified, right? I was stopped by a policeman once because when it was something like 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning and there wasn't a single pedestrian in sight, I went over a pedestrian crossing with a red light. And every single day now, if I get on a bike, if I'm cycling on the roads, every single time I hear a police siren, I think they're coming for me. I've done something wrong. I've accidentally skipped a red light. What the hell? You just need to have the police come for you once for something, and you are always worrying. You are always looking over your shoulder. And so I feel so bad for this guy. But also, why were there 6 police officers? Okay, 1 police officer turning up is one thing, but when we are in a world where actual crimes like knife crime and burglaries and whatnot just go completely, unsolved, the police don't bother to turn up, right? You have got the manpower to send 6 police officers to this guy's house for apparently, what was it called, malicious communications and harassment, even though they literally didn't have any evidence of this. I mean, where is the justification for that? We just do not have our priorities straight in this country. It's 2-tier Britain with 2-tier policing, and we will have from Tuesday 2-tier justice where white men will be getting tougher sentences. What a wonderful world we're living in, eh? Anyway, I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already.